What you're watching is a hero on her way to her final resting place. You're watching what's called a Dignified Transfer at Dover Air Force Base. This was this last August as a U.S. Air Force carry team transfers the remains of Air Force Chief Master Sergeant Tress King of North Carolina.
A somber moment, one in which the fallen's family is invited. And when they arrive, they can rest assured that a support system is set in place to help them through the grieving process. That is thanks to a dedicated group known as the Friends of the Fallen. The president of that group is Laura Bashista. She is with us this afternoon, along with Public Relations Coordinator Jennifer Miller. Ladies, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
We want to find out more about what you do. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But can I ask you real quick about the Dignified Transfer? It kind of feels like we only see little parts of it. Can you give us an overview of what happens?
At a Dignified Transfer, families are welcome to come to Dover Air Force Base. They witness the transfer of their loved one arriving home from overseas as they are moved from the aircraft to an awaiting vehicle. And then that vehicle takes that loved one to the mortuary, the Air Force mortuary. And that's where they process everything and prepare their loved one to leave to go to their final resting place.
Now, notice we're not calling this a ceremony because a dignified transfer is more of a solemn movement, as it's described. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is correct. It is very difficult for the families to witness, but they want to be there because this is the first time their loved one will be coming back on American soil. So it's very important for them to be there for that time. And they are in all different stages of grief, but we're there for them to support them.
So this happens for every active duty member who is lost abroad and comes back home?
It does. Yes, it does. And for various reasons. Some of them are in areas of responsibility. Some of them have passed due to other reasons. But they are all given the same honor and respect as they return home.
And I imagine it's important that the family's wishes for their loved ones remains the number one priority.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are so many decisions that these families have to make as their loved one is being brought back to the United States. So they're asked items like, what kind of media choice would you like? So there are some dignified transfers that are private, that you will never see on the media because the family has opted to have private media or internal media. And then there are the ones that are shown on the news media channels, and those are labeled or flagged as public media. And those are all choices that the families make.
So I almost feel intrusive asking this question, but have you guys witnessed the Dignified Transfer?
Yes, we do.
What does that feel like?
For us, it's actually an honor to be there for these families and for the service member. It is an honor for us to witness this. It can be emotional when you witness a dignified transfer, but we do this often enough that we are familiar with the situation. Yeah. But I mean, it can be difficult. We're not out on the flight line every time with every family, but there are requests for the family to have us out there with them in case they need something from us, or if they have a small child with them that we can help with. Those are some of the reasons we would be out there, but part of our training is that we do witness one.
Yes, it's emotional, but you've heard the term game face, and it's when we know we're working, we're there for the families. That's not to say we're inhuman. We do often have to step back and take a breath and gather ourselves and come back into play. But we know why we're there. We know why we are doing what we are doing. We're honored to be given the privilege to function under a military organization, the Air Force Mortuary Affairs Operations, you know, entrust us with so much, allowing us to be there. And so we take that to heart, and we go to work.
Wow. And these families, of course, are going through an unimaginable loss, and that's where the Friends of the Fallen come in. And we're going to take a little break, come back, and talk about what this group does. Del Mar Life, stay with us.
On behalf of a grateful nation, words on the wall inside the Center for Families of the Fallen at Dover Air Force Base.
It's a center that's run by the nonprofit group Friends of the Fallen, and we're spending some time today with the group's president, Laura Bashista, along with public relations coordinator Jennifer Miller. Thank you again for being here, and we talked a little bit about the Dignified Transfer before, and you know, this is something you guys don't advertise or really make public what you do, and we're so grateful that you're joining us today. Tell us about your mission.
Our mission is to support the mission of the Air Force Mortuary Affairs Operations at Dover Air Force Base in providing care and support to the families that travel here from all over the country to witness the dignified transfer of their loved one.
So your number one priority in doing what you do is?
The families.
To care for the families and support the families.
Because?
This is the most difficult time in their lives, and with the volunteer from the Friends of the Fallen being there, we are not in uniform. And they've spent all their time with someone in uniform to this point. And our presence there, whether we actually do anything with them, is just that there is someone else there that cares that's not in uniform.
Just the presence.
The presence. And I mean, we do have materials and other things that we give to them, but the most important is that we're there.
Yeah.
Even if it's to hand a tissue to someone that needs it, as simple as that.
Now, we just saw the Center for Families of the Fallen at Dover Air Force Base. Can you tell us a little bit about the center?
The center was constructed in 2010. It was actually opened in December 2010, and it is a living room-like setting, I would describe it as. It has multiple seating areas. In case there are family dynamics, or in case there are, unfortunately at times, more than one family involved, because there's more than one fallen service member coming home. The center also has a children's play area, because oftentimes these are young military members coming home and they've got children. So there's a very nice play area for them. There's a quiet room or a meditation room where families who just need a little bit of space can venture off to. And then there's a lovely garden outside that families can go get some peace and fresh air when they need to break away as well.
And your group is completely volunteer?
Completely.
Ready at a moment's notice?
Our volunteers are on call for a 24-hour period, typically twice a month. They may not be called, but they always have to be available. So when that email comes through and they know what they have to do, and it can be at 3 o'clock in the morning that they have to be at the center, or it could be, you know, midnight, it could be any time, but they're ready in that 24-hour period to be there.
Are you looking for more volunteers?
We are always accepting applications. There is an application link on our website. Volunteers do go through some extensive screening, background checks, and then orientation and an extensive training process just to prepare them for anything that they may
So it's not like you're going
with.
in blind. You have an idea of what you're going into and how to...
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
So is there any other way that we can support what you do?
Well, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are grateful for a wonderful community of support that allows us to provide all of the materials we provide for families, the grief material, the reading material, bears and shawls that go home with these families. You know, oftentimes when they travel to Dover, it is within days of finding out that they've lost a loved one. So they come here, they're at the worst moment of their life. They've forgotten their toothbrush. They've forgotten a cell phone charger. They didn't pack enough diapers. So we provide them with all of those materials. So yes, we do gladly accept donations. There is a donations link on our webpage. And then we, of course, accept checks and money orders to our P.O. Box.
I have to ask you, why do you do what you do?
I think everyone has a different reason that they're called to do it. But more than anything, it's our way of giving back to these families.
I agree. It's one of those things, you hear the statement, someone has to do it. And we have an amazing group of volunteers. As Jennifer was saying, our volunteers are on a calendar, on a schedule. There's always a primary volunteer and a secondary volunteer on that calendar to serve the families if they're scheduled to come in on that day. If there is an incident where there's several family members coming and we need more support, our volunteers, you know, an email or a message goes out asking for more volunteers, and our volunteers never disappoint. We are a small private organization. It's 33, 35 of us at different given times, and they want to be there. They want to help. And as Jennifer said, it's all for different reasons, but mainly to give back to those who gave everything. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer and Laura with Friends
Thank you.
of the Fallen. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for telling us about the organization.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Thank you for having us.